Right, welcome to the first brew in the new mini performance workshop. There's a scenic view swinging round. We're just moving in today. It's Saturday, and obviously on Wednesday night I did the Monte Carlo up at Glasgow. So first thing I'll do is we'll cut back to that, and I'll do a bit of a debrief on how the run down from Glasgow went after we got off the ramp and headed down the A76, and how the car performed, etc, etc, and then we'll flick back to this unit after that. Okay, so quick recap on the Monte Carlo UK leg start event in Glasgow on last Wednesday night it was now. I have to say I don't think it was as good a venue as we've had previously. Last year was Clydebank, and then the year before that was Paisley, and this year was Glasgow, as I've already said in the footage outside of this. And yes, the weather wasn't as good. I mean, it was damp and miserable, but it wasn't like absolutely freezing cold like it was at Clydebank last year. But still, there wasn't the number of people there to see you off the start ramp, and also the facilities for the people taking part in the heritage runs and the actual Monte Carlo itself was nowhere near as good. And there was no driver's briefing. I don't know, it was just lacking this year compared to previous years, I have to say. Clydebank was probably the best for facilities. Paisley's been the best for turnout and the number of things happening around the event. It just looked, I don't know, it's hard to put into context how poor it was. It sounds harsh, I know it sounds harsh, but it was just not that good. A reflection of that is, in previous years I've been able to find pictures of cars coming off the ramps. This year I cannot find anything. One of the main selling points for Karen was to get a picture of a car going off the ramp and put it on the office wall at M-Sport where she works, but I've not been able to find anything. There's pictures of the actual cars that were going to Monte Carlo going off, well, not all of them, but some of them. So that was the historic and classic entries, so they're going all the way. They're the proper rally cars, which is fair enough. But there's absolutely zero coverage I can find of the actual heritage run cars, apart from little bits that the actual organisers have done themselves. So at the moment, if it's going to be at Glasgow again next year, I might think twice about it, and it's one of my favourite events, so something to bear in mind. And I'm not just going to sound off on YouTube where nobody's going to see it. I'll send an email to the organisers when in a week or so, when they've had a chance to get themselves back from Monte Carlo and let the dust settle, so to speak. But it was definitely, for the competitors and the entrance to the heritage runs, it was nowhere near as good a venue as Clydebank was. And even though it was in the middle of Glasgow, it seemed quieter than Clydebank was. Clydebank was out in the sticks on an absolutely bitterly cold night. Yes, the weather had a big part of it, but that wasn't the be-all and end of it for us, because obviously we're sitting in a dry car, well, dry-ish car the whole time. So it's the things that happen around it which make the event for us, and it's not a huge commitment, but it's a fair old trek. I mean, it's 2 hours up from Glasgow for us, and then it's a day off work to do it. You know, it's a commitment to take part and provide something for the public to see, because if they're just going to go and see the actual rally cars that are doing the event themselves, they're going to be severely disappointed because there was only 20. Because, you know, at the end of the day, are you really going to start from Glasgow when you got a chance of starting from Barcelona or somewhere? You might as well head south on the back of a trailer for 500 miles rather than get yourself all the way up to Glasgow, then have 2 days basically before you're even out of the country that you started from. Yeah, so full credit to the guys that do it, but yeah, you can see why somewhere like Glasgow has to really up the game to entice people to take part, and to entice people to take part in the heritage run as well. As I said, I don't think I would recommend it as much as I did this year. Now there was 4 or 5 minis in total, and 3 of those were due to me, so tricky one. How did the car go? Mixed fortunes. The lights and everything worked as expected up until the point where my converted flasher, which I use for a trigger for the relays for the main beam, on the arms there's a little, I don't know, there's a little arm on the main part of the pivot, and it basically sits on, oh god, how to describe it? There's a little arm that sits on a spring that latches the indicator arm in place as you go up or down. And I think I just pushed it too hard, and the little arm that sits on a spring had gone the wrong side of the little plunger that it keeps in place, sort of thing. So it should have been like that, and I pushed it too hard and it gone like that. So this little thing was sitting on the spring, spinning around by itself. So that meant I couldn't keep main beam on without having to hold it by hand. So I just did the last quarter or whatever of the run just on dipped. The run itself, pretty simple as per normal, out of Glasgow, and then down the M77. We did have an upsee in the directions, just on the very outskirts of Glasgow. Somehow, and I haven't checked it yet, we didn't find the exit onto the M8. It's not a bit of road I know very well. I do know that area quite well, but not that particular little bit, and we just missed a sign somewhere, which meant we missed the M8. But I recognised the signs of where we were heading, so I just said, alright, sod this, we're not going to try and turn around, we'll just keep going on a bit further and then swing back onto the M8 and then the M77, because I knew where I was at. And there was another bit going up the M77 where the tulip diagram was telling you to go straight on, but instructions were actually to take a left off the motorway. So whether there was something on that junction where we'd go off onto the M8, I don't know, and I never got to speak to anybody else about it really. Karen said she struggled to find it as well, so there was something a little bit amiss there, but I'm not really entirely sure what it was. I do intend to have a look at Google Maps and just get it right in my head as to whether it was us or there's something in the instructions that are not quite right, just to put my mind at rest. The run down the A76 was absolutely torrential for rain. Puddles hiding potholes with huge puddles in them, floods across the roads, water over the bonnet. Hellish. I did drown the car once, I think. I went through hit some, because I was leading, because I slowed down to let Karen catch us up, wait for them, and then we went in convoy most of the way. So they had the advantage of watching for my brake lights banging on and seeing me hit the big puddles, because they're just like black on the road and you just couldn't see them. So I hit one or two pretty hard and went up over the bonnet. And there was a point where I thought I'd swallowed a bit of water because it ran a bit rough, and it was definitely a bit hiccupy. It wasn't misfiring, but it was a bit hiccupy and a bit hesitant at times, and I think it was just the volume of water that the front of the car was getting. I did have the front perspex blanking plates on the grille to try and bring the water temperature up, because in previous years we found it's been that cold that there was no heat inside the car because the water temperature of the car was so cold. So I did that again. I did that this year, and that meant the water temperature was up to about 68 on the motorway, and roughly the same coming back down. And it, obviously in traffic it did start to jump up, and when we stopped and were parking up it did get around 80 odd, and then the fan kicked in and the thermostat opened around about just after that point. I think it's an 83 degree thermostat. So yeah, that helped, and it did stop a lot of the water from coming in the front of the car, but I'm sure I swallowed a fair bit, or that air filter that sits at the front on the supercharger was sucking in a lot of damp air, so it certainly deadened the performance. And when I emptied the oil catch tank 2 days ago now, I think it was this weekend, when I was finishing cleaning it, it had a lot of moisture in it that it wouldn't normally get on a journey like that, and I think it was purely due to the amount of water that I was getting sucked into the engine. And I did conk out once. I did find, again, it's something that I knew about, but I didn't get it rectified. The alternator is turning too slow at lower revs, and it doesn't keep everything fully charged. Its kick-in point is too high for my idle and stuff, so the voltage was just disappearing. And when I had main beam on and the heated screen, because it kept misting up inside, I put that on and put main beam on, voltage just absolutely just disappeared down to about 11, because I was going too slow. I wasn't revving hard enough because I had carrying in convoy behind me, and also the road conditions were that bad that it wasn't revving hard enough, and I couldn't keep the voltage in the system. So I went through a section where I got flooded pretty much, and it was a bit hesitant, and then there was some traffic coming in a pinch point. I think it was in Cumnock or somewhere like that on the A76, and basically I sort of stalled it because I got the wrong gear, and the revs just dropped, and it just died, and it just like nothing. Tried to restart it for, it was a very tense, probably 2 or 3 minutes it took before it would restart. It's never been that brilliant at restarting when it's hot, and with stopping, the temperature crept up as it does, and it didn't want to restart, and eventually it did catch and restart, and it was fine after that. The only dry section of road we had was the last 20 miles home, and the car went way better then, because I think it was just not sucking down all this moisture, and it was cold, dry air, and it went really well the last 20 miles. So apart from that, car behaved itself, just purely weather related issues because it was hellish. That slight issue with the indicator stalk, but I know how to fix that, and maybe that's my fault for being too rough with it, I think. Apart from that, on the prep side of it before I went, I don't know if I filmed this or not, but I'll mention it now anyway. I had to change the wheel bearing on the far side, so that's the passenger side front wheel bearing, and I put 2 new tyres on the front, 2 new 32Rs, or just AO 32Rs, whatever they are, because the ones that are on there were getting down, and I moved those to the back and that. So I knew it was going to be damp or possibly even snowy in the forecast leading up to it, so I had to try and think what I was going to do. I did have all the winter tyres ready to chuck on if the forecast snow appeared, which it didn't. It came in a couple of days beforehand and then just got washed away with the amount of massive rain that we've had over the days previous to the event. So yeah, that was it. Monte Carlo start event done. Slightly disappointed with it. I enjoyed it the same. The company makes it, I think, but the venue did take the shine off it, I have to say. But I'll probably do it again next year, but I'll have to certainly think harder about it than I've done previously, especially we'll see what the organisers say about any feedback they get from other people about the start event. But that's it. I've rambled on for 14 minutes now, so see how much I can cut out of this. Anyway, back to the unit from this weekend. I can't work up there every evening at the moment because there's no access due to roadworks. So yeah, as I've said, on the footage that you're going to see, next bit of footage will probably be working on Austin. But for now, back to the unit. So welcome back to the new unit. As I said before, we're just moving in today. First few jobs is to make it a bit more secure, as you would expect, and then start moving the cars in from the old unit as it was. But you can see it's all empty. We've got an office unit in the corner. Number one job was install a kettle, and then we just got to start filling it with cars and work out where everything's going to go. The plan being to have the two-post lift in here somewhere, either in that corner there or pretty much where I'm standing. We've got plenty of roof space up above, so that's not an issue. There is a central cross beam there that we've got to watch out for, but we can be the far side of it or this side, and there's good illumination in the corner because you've got natural light coming in, and with these roof lights it's nice and bright, and you can also see it's insulated in there as well. So the times I've been in here, the lady was in before, she never had any sort of heating on in here. In the 8 years she was here, she only used 59 units of electric. So she's never been sitting with the lights on and a big heater running. So yeah, we'll crack on, finish our brews, crack on, doing our bits of alterations that we need to do, and then we'll start moving cars.
Much easier without the
Well, probably, of course. Right, Sunday afternoon, and we moved in with some assistance. Everything's moved over from the old unit, and basically it's just shoved in here. And then while I'm in Birmingham, Christopher's going to sort everything out. I haven't told him yet. But yeah, that's what's moved in. So next job, as I said, will be to sort out all this. There's a few bits and pieces, a few important things to sort out. Get the radio up, speakers, and yeah, just go from there. Start reconditioning the ramp, two-post ramp, and see where that's going to go. But yeah, a lot of sorting out to do yet. So that'll be it for today, and the next video will be, no idea, maybe working on Austin. That's next on my list. So that's it for now, and I'll see you on the next one.